called happiness, opulence, and education, which are not at all useful for pleasing the Lord. The Lord is pleased only by the process of surrender unto him. So that's Srila Prabhupada beginning explanation of these verses. And it was interesting to me that the verses are starting with explaining to us about Hanuman and Hanuman's role with this amazing pastime of Lord Ramachandra. As we know, Ramachandra is now the seventh incarnation, I believe. He is we've heard so many different pastimes of different incarnations of the Lord. And Lord Ramachandra comes now in human form. And so he's going to show so many different pastimes of how to offer protection to the citizens of Varsha. And of course, the prominent personality in Lord Ramachandra performing his pastimes is Hanumanji, and as he's called, as he's so lovable, in most of the different places where Hanuman is actually worshipped. So this is a very epic pastime, and we see that recently we had so much attention being given to Lord Ram, even in the famous city of New York. When Lord Ram, the deity, was being installed, we know that on 42nd Street, where all the um, advertisements for whatever is going on in the world is shown in New York City. During that time, there was this advertisement, or well, prior to showing the actual installation of the deity, there were many advertisements about Lord Ram coming. And so finally, I believe on that day, it was being shown live in New York City, the installation of Lord Ram. So Lord Ram is, as I said, it's a very epic pastime, and people in many parts of the world, they worship Hanuman, and of course they worship Lord Ram, because Hanuman is a personality that teaches us about devotional service, about bhakti yoga, everything in his life that we know is exemplary of a person that is fully absorbed in devotional service. And so Srila Prabhupada, of course, he gives us these two verses, which most devotees, they are, they're not only encouraged. In many cases, most devotees are instructed in the very beginning of their Krishna consciousness to learn these two verses from the Nectar of Devotion, because these two verses are the foundation of devotees practicing or engaging in devotional service. And this very famous verse by Srila Rupa Goswami, Anyabilasita Sunyam Gyana Karmadana Ritama Nukilena Krishna no Silanam Bhakti Uttama. So this verse shares with us that when first class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy, and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. And so this is the mood of Hanuman in the first verse, that Shukadeva Goswami is speaking about this great Hanuman who's engaged with the inhabitants of that land in devotional service in the land of Kimpurusha Varsha. And that he's engaged in this devotional service of Lord Ramachandra. And of course, the elder brother, and of course, the whole pastime is centered around Sita Devi. And then the next verse, which Prabhupada, actually Srila Prabhupada refers to Hanuman as Anyabilasita Sunya, because Hanuman was fully 100% plus dedicated to the service of the Lord. So explain that he was engaged in Dasharas, which is a servant, and his service mood was so exemplary that many great sages would, when they speak about devotion, when they speak about dedication, they would use Hanuman as the example for everyone to learn from him. And then Prabhupada also mentions this verse as Sarvopadhi Vinir Muktam Tat Paratvena Tat Paratvena Nirmala Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti. Bhakti, or devotional service, means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations, and simply by being employed in the service of the Lord, one's senses are purified. So, in terms of this pastime, which in this pastime of Ram, when I joined in Krishna consciousness early some years ago, early in my life, there wasn't as much emphasis on this pastime, even though Srila Prabhupada spoke about Lord Ram many times. However, in our daily activities, there wasn't as many, there wasn't so much storytelling or pastime telling of Lord Ram. At least that was in my experience of being a devotee. However, as the years went on, I remember being in New Vrindavan for some time, and I shared that one time in the class. There was a devotee that was a Ram Bhakta, and he was so very dedicated to Lord Ram. And he would engage the devotees there in doing pastimes, and doing drama about Lord Ram. Every week they would do some drama on the weekend because he was such a dedicated devotee. And so because I would spend some time there, I would often get to see some of those dramas. And it was just really incredible to kind of start learning more about that pastime, because seeing devotees actually perform in drama this pastime of Lord Ram really made it like it became alive in my consciousness about this amazing personality who came and played the role of a king, who is the Supreme Personality of God in himself, the Supreme Lord, comes and comes in this mood just to care for the devotees, just to care for people in general. And so this pastime became very dear to me because of the mood of Hanuman. Of course, we say Lord, meaning Hanuman is a servant of the Lord. But Hanuman, who in himself is this amazingly, not only is he very dedicated, but he is himself a great personality. So I just wanted to share a little bit about Hanuman that I read recently that just kind of brought me back to remembering some of those dramas that the devotees would do to bring this pastime of Lord Ram into our consciousness and to help us to remember what is the purpose of us engaging in devotional service. How does this pastime relate to us and these two verses that we just shared? In engaging in devotional service and becoming purified, becoming free from materialistic endeavors, becoming free from fruitive activities, and becoming fully absorbed in the Lord. So I'm going to read a little bit of this pastime from Agatha Rishi, because it's just so just learning about these personalities is so wonderful. Learning about devotees, or entering into the mood of the devotees that are a part of these amazing pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so here, the Hanuman, who is he is personified by his strength. And so we'll learn a little bit about that. So there lived on Mount Sumeru, a powerful leader named Keshari. His wife Anjana was beautiful beyond compare. One day, Vayu, the wind god, saw her standing alone, and he desired union with her. After uniting with her in his mystical yoga form, she conceived a child who was named Hanuman. He cried out in hunger, and Anjana placed him down amid some reeds. Sounds familiar, right? For this pastime of putting the child in reeds. While she went to collect forest fruits, Hanuman looked up from where he lay and saw the sun. Thinking it to be a large fruit, he sprang upward with outstretched hands. Gifted with the power of his divine father, who is the sun god, Vayu, he soared through the heavens towards the sun. Vayu went with him, covering him with a cool breeze so that he would not be burned by the sun. The sun god also withheld his blazing rays, as he understood that Hanuman was a great servant of Vishnu, who would later assist him on earth. As Hanuman went swiftly toward the skies, a demon named Rahu was also approaching the sun with a view to envelop him. It was the day ordained for that demon to swallow the fiery sun god, thus creating an eclipse. But Hanuman saw him and pushed him aside. Afraid of the mighty Varana, which is monkey, Rahu sped away towards Indra's abode in the heavens. Going before the deity, he said, "O king of gods, having allotted to me the sun and moon as my regular food, how is it that you have now given over my share to another? See how another Rahu has appeared in the sky, intent on consuming the sun." Indra immediately left his seat, and mounting his celestial elephant, Airavata, he rose up into the heavens. He approached Hanuman, who was streaking through the sky like a blazing meteor, when the Vanara, which is a monkey, saw the elephant god nearby. He considered him to be another fruit, and he turned toward him. Indra then released Thunderbolt, which struck Hanuman and caused him to drop back down to the earth. Then Vanara fell into a mountaintop and lay there apparently dead. Seeing this, Vayu became angry, and he caused all creatures to begin to suffocate, interrupting the flow of the vital life airs in all beings. Vayu created a great disturbance in the universe. Indra and all the other gods quickly approached Vayu, who stood by the fallen Hanuman. So those are all the demigods. And they prayed for him to for the suffering to stop. Brahma also appeared there and asked Vayu what was the cause of his actions. Vayu replied, "It's on account of my son being slain. See now how the innocent child lays here motionless, struck down by Indra's terrible thunderbolt." Brahma then reached out and ran his hand over Hanuman. The Vanara immediately sat up and looked around. The relieved Vayu again began to move in the bodies of living creatures. And Brahma said, "Listen, O gods, as I tell you about this Vanara. He will accomplish your purpose on earth and become a famous servant of Vishnu. You should therefore all grant him boons." Pleased to hear Brahma's words, Indra took off his garland and placed it around Hanuman's neck, saying, "From this day on, he shall be invulnerable to my thunderbolt. The sun god then said, I shall bestow upon him 100 part of my brilliance. Also, when he begins to study the scriptures, I shall enable him to quickly learn all aspects of knowledge. None shall exceed him in scriptural understanding. Yamaraj granted him invulnerability to his rod and freedom from ailment. Kuvera also blessed him that he would remain unwearied in battle. Shiva said, he shall be immune to my weapons from death at my hands. Vishwakarma added, this Vanara shall be invulnerable to all celestial weapons forced by me, and he shall be long lived. Finally, Brahma said, O wind god, your son shall be invincible in battle. He will prove the terror of his foes and the shelter of his friends. The jewel among monkeys shall be able to change his form at will and go wherever he pleases at any speed he likes. No Brahmin curse will be able to kill him. His movement shall be unimpeded and he will become glorious. In war, he will accomplish tremendous feats, which makes one's hair stands on end, thus causing the destruction of Ravana and the pleasure of Ram. After this, the gods departed, the demigods departed, and Vayu took Hanuman back to his mother. He began to grow up like a god, overflowing with exultation of his own power and being possessed of his mischievous nature of monkeys. He started creating trouble for the rishis in the forest, knowing that they would not harm him. He would playfully throw about and break their sacrificial ladles and vessels and tear to shreds the piles of soft bark they kept for making garments. Despite the efforts of his mother and father to check him, Hanuman continued pranks and went on harassing the ascetics. Eventually, the rishis, not wanting to harm the playful young Vanara, found a way to stop him. Touching sacred water, their leader uttered an imprecation. At this one, as this one makes trouble for us, depending Harbo. So we're having electrical problems as I shared earlier. So Hari. Okay, so anyway, I was sharing that pastime only to bring us back to this point of who Hanuman was, the amazing personality that he was, and also this verse of how devotional service means engaging all of our senses in the service of the Lord. And so here, this is exemplified by Hanuman. He was this amazing devotee. He had these amazing qualities that he was able to use in the service of the Lord. And a few of those some of those qualities, most of the qualities that Hanuman exemplified, even though when we hear this pastime of him and how he took birth and all the things that he did as a young monkey, um, he always was very devoted. He always had this quality of devotion. He's actually a personification of dedication and devotion. And this strength that he had, that was, of course, because of his birth, he utilized that strength in the service of the Lord. So there was so many things that Hanuman did in service to Lord Ram that that tell so many. It teaches us these stories, these pastimes, teaches us why it's important to engage in devotional service. Um, the fact that he was the son of the wind god is kind of like an impetus in some ways to help us to understand that even though Hanuman had this great background, he had this great birth, so to speak, and still he was in the body of a monkey. So he wasn't necessarily um, understood, or he wasn't necessarily accepted, that he had this great power. But Hanuman, because he was so dedicated and he was so devoted to Lord Ram, and as we'll hear as devotees read about this more in this purport, in these purports, we'll hear how Hanuman, this dedication that he had for Ram, was exemplified by him using this strength, this birth that he had in order to serve the Lord. And so Prabhupada says in that verse that um, when the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are these two side effects. A person becomes free from material designation and they become employed in the service of the Lord. So this is the mercy that we have all received from Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada has given us a very, how can I say, what's the word I want to say, that uh, 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 um, uh, anyway, I can't think of a word right now, but what Srila Prabhupada has given us in terms of this birth, of taking birth as a devotee, this birth is such a great, and it's beyond what I can actually explain. I'm lost for words to explain the birth that we have been given by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada's representatives, by those personalities that have opened our hearts to bhakti, to serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to serving Krishna. So, like Hanuman, we're given this opportunity to do our best in whatever way we can in order to serve the Lord. And so, why is that? Why is it that we want to do our best? Because all of these pastimes, and just recently we're reading from the story of Paranjana. All of these pastimes are to help us to awaken our love for the Lord. Because at the time of death, we will actually be challenged, by how much we remembered Krishna, we remembered the Lord. Um, and so these pastimes of Hanuman, these pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, they're there to teach us how Ramachandra, in this mood of being a king, how dedicated he was, because he's playing the role of a human. And he's showing us, the exemplary characteristics of being of how to develop this mood of being caring and loving. And I keep coming back to that because this is what we learn from all these great personalities in the scriptures. Firstly, is whoever we are, whatever we are, we always have something to offer to the Lord because Krishna picked us up and gave us guidance in order to offer whatever we can to remember our relationship with him. And secondly, the Lord accepts whatever it is that we offer, whatever we can offer in service to the Lord. Sometimes, we think that if we're doing some huge, big service, where, that is the way that we are developing love for the Lord. I can say that from my own experience of having done some services in our institution where it may have assisted with some profit adoration and distinction at best, you know, for me in that service. But here we see Hanuman, this service to Lord Ram is totally in the most humble way. And in this body of a monkey, that he could be he could be so dedicated that that's an impetus for anyone that has a human birth to actually develop this mood of Lord Hanuman, of Hanuman, um, this mood of humility and this mood of doing their best to serve the Lord in whatever form, whatever limitations we may have, that we make an endeavor to do our best at that service. And then to be caring for others. We see that this is one of the mood of Hanuman in that service to Lord Ram. He played so many roles in serving him. And one of the roles that I think about a lot is he played the role of like a doctor kind of, he went and got, medicines for everyone to help. He went and got the roots and just to have some medicinal cure for everyone that was having some illness. So when we hear of all the different things that all the different services that Hanuman did, it's a kind of an inspiration. At least for me, I'm inspired by hearing some of the things that he did just from basically having a mood of simplicity. So we hear from Srila Prabhupada always, and we hear from our spiritual guides, our spiritual teachers, that a devotee is a very uncomplicated. Um, the life of a devotee is simple. It's just dedicated to whatever pleases the Lord. And so this example is there for us. The simplicity and innocent devotion is exemplified by this mood of Hanuman in serving Lord Ram. And it's there in this pastime of Lord Ram. Because again, we know Ram came in the mood of serving others. He came in the mood of protecting. And we know that, he went through so many different challenges in doing that, in wanting to do that. And yet he teaches us in this pastime about him taking this form, this incarnation, Krishna the Lord, Vishnu taking this incarnation of Lord Ram to come on the planet to help others and to teach us the importance of what it means to be a dedicated servant. Lord Ram is teaching us this by his example, and then he's showing us through his devotees, and specifically through Hanuman, what it means to be a dedicated servant of the Lord. And so this mood of Dasyaras, there's so many different aspects of this pastime that we can talk about. Um, you know, how Hanuman appeared on the flag of Arjuna in the battleground, how Hanuman was there, inspiring Arjuna, encouraging Arjuna, because they're both warriors, right, on behalf of the Lord. And so like that, we are also being given this amazing opportunity to serve the Lord in whatever capacity we're able to do that. And remembering um, Lord Chaitanya's mood of serving with humility. This is actually the substance of engaging in bhakti, becoming humble and serving to the best of our ability to awaken this love for the Lord. So I'm going to stop there because, yeah, I just wanted to highlight a few points about Lord Ram. And at this point, that's here in the verse about the apparent contradiction, of Ram in the different millenniums. Well, there are different millenniums, and the Lord's pastimes, the Lord's leelas, are always going on. And so sometimes Prabhupada explains to us that some things may seem contradictory in the scriptures. However, if we hear them through the lens of Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, which is simultaneously one and different, that the Lord can, this apparent confusion can be there because there are different millenniums. There are different, the Lord does appear at different times. And so there are sometimes some ways that we may understand the Lord according to our capacity. And then there are other people that understand the Lord in different ways according to their capacity. So Prabhupada is bringing that point up because it's important for us. And throughout the Bhagavatam, we'll see things that might appear confusing. And so if we keep that in the forefront, that this bhakti, this philosophy, it can be this and it's also that. It's not just this. It's this and that. Okay, my dear friends. I'm going to stop here. So if anyone has anything to share, there's so many different pastimes. Yeah, so many different things to share about Lord Ram. And we can't speak about Ram without speaking about Ram's servant, Hanuman. And yeah, Hanuman there's just no way to speak a lot about Lord Ram without connecting deeply with the mood of Hanuman. Okay, dear devotees, anyone else have anything that you would like to share? Maybe you have a pastime. There's so many pastimes of Lord Ram that you might want to, share with us this morning. There's a famous pastime in the Bhagavatam Rita. If someone would like to remember that pastime of Hanuman.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
Jai, I don't have a pastime to share, but I just wanted to express my gratitude for your sharing such wonderful stories with us this morning, on this morning, this snowy morning. And I've cut out several times, unfortunately, with the electricity. But this is such a wonderful pastime. And I remember when I first started hearing this pastime, I guess at the Institute, I had become aware of it. And I had actually, one of the books my that my uncle gave my father was actually Ramayana. It was the big book, and it was. I used to just look through it and was just amazed at the story of the monkey people, and I didn't really get it at all, but as I later became an aspiring devotee and started hearing more of the stories and really having an appreciation for Lord Ramachandra. And one of the early books that I remember seeing, it was a popular book back in the 70s, Be Here Now. There was a picture of with Hanuman, and he has his chest ripped open, and in his chest is Sita Ram. So that was always captured my mind, that that within his heart was the forms of God. Of course, I wasn't really sure at that point what it was, but now I understand that basically he held Sita Ram within his heart all the time.
Yeah.
And so just wanted to share that, and thank you for a wonderful class this morning.
Well, thank you for the encouragement, because I'm like, okay, no electricity. And yeah, and there's so much to say, about this pastime. And so it can become a little overwhelming because Ram is like revered. And one of the pastimes I read about Hanuman is that he will not leave until Ram comes back. He will wait for Ram to come back.
Mm.
And so we see that there's a revival of Lord Ram and Lord Ram's pastimes going on now. And we see that the Prime Minister of India, he is
Oh.
um, he is the person that is like pioneering in one sense, although there's the so many of the residents of India, they know Ram's pastimes. Like they can just young kids can tell you Ram pastimes because that's just a part of their life, their culture. But
Mm-hmm.
here you have this prime minister that is bringing to the world the story of Lord Ram. So it just made me think, Hanuman, you said you would wait till Lord Ram comes back, and here it is, in another yuga, because this happened in
Mm-hmm.
Treta Yuga, and now here we are in Kali Yuga, where things are so crazy that we have this prime minister that is now reminding people about the glories of this pastime. And this pastime has so many lessons because he came as a human to teach, just like Krishna did. Ram came to teach us about how to protect. And that's what's needed now on the planet more than anything else, is to teach people how to protect and care for each other. So yeah, I remember one time, and I'll tell this last brief story. Ikeber and I, we were traveling through it. We were in, I can't remember which. I think I can't remember where we were, but anyway, we were on pilgrimage, and we went to a temple of Hanuman, and it was a temple that was on a hill. And when we arrived at that temple, we didn't see anyone. So we just walked up the steps to go and take darshan of Hanuman. And then the pujari came out. And then the pujari looked just like a monkey. I swear. No, seriously. I mean, this is a true story. Ekavera, where were we? Which place in India were we? Jaipur, in Jaipur. And so this Pujari came out, and I was just like struck, his hair was like his face, and I'm like, oh my God, Krishna. And then other of the residents that was living in the back of the temple, they started coming out into the courtyard of the temple, and they all looked like monkeys, all of them. And and so, it's just so very real. And this is, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago or so. I don't know, maybe, yeah, about 20 years or so ago. But it's these pastimes are really, very real even today. And the lessons that are there for us to learn is just incredible. Just this lesson of Hanuman and being simple, right? Just this being a simple devotee. That's such a hard thing to get, to be a simple devotee. It's so difficult because everybody wants to be heard and seen and acknowledged and validated. And Hanuman was just like, he didn't even know he had the powers that he had. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Thank you, Agari Krishna, for being here. This is you say Agari Krishna is thanking me, my spiritual master, for this inspirational class. But to be honest with you, every time I come to give class, I give class a lot of places. But when I come to give class on this platform, I'm always so nervous. I don't know why. I'm always like, I think because there's scholars on here, like Agari Krishna and Yashashu Dev. But I mean, there's scholars everywhere. So I have to really work at that in the mornings when I do class here. I really do. I get lost for words. I'm like contradict, it's my brain is not functioning right. So so thank you for the encouragement, Nagari Prabhu.
Thank you, Ma. Really appreciate it for the inspiration. Yeah, with Hanuman, um, like him being a very popular devotee. So in terms of your understanding of his character, he's very famous. So devotees, how can we take inspiration from that? So as practicing devotees of Radha Damodar, we wanted to, do like big service for Prabhupada here at Gita Nagari. And this is, you know, Prabhupada wanted to really start the second half of his mission. So, things are just according to the way Prabhupada wants. Things are actually going to expand from here. So looking forward into that kind of future, how do you not like become proud and just always, stay grounded in that mood of Hanuman?
Yeah, thank you, Agari Prabhu. Well, Krishna, he's our best friend, and he will definitely arrange for us if we become proud. If we are a little bit sincere in wanting to do our service to please our spiritual master, if somehow we become not so grounded with Trinada P, then Krishna will arrange. He'll arrange for us to get grounded with or become grounded with understanding, humility that's required to remember that we are not the doers. He will help us. He will make arrangements. Sometimes the arrangements are not so nice in our minds, but usually those arrangements, if we stand back and if we have a quiet mind, then we will see that those arrangements are being made to help us. And so it's not on our own that we can endeavor to become humble with service. It's kind of like a mercy and blessings that we get from our spiritual master. And although we may make some endeavor to be humble, which sometimes for most devotees, it's kind of not really authentic, staying in the background, not speaking, it's not often very authentic when they try to exemplify humility like that, because humility sometimes requires somebody to be very much in the forefront. And as you said, with every expansion, there also comes lessons to learn. And if those expansions, Gita Nagari has been expanded many times. Gita Nagari has been on the map doing many beautiful, wonderful things for many different periods of time. And we've seen it all fall apart. So yeah, I think for devotees, that's such a beautiful question, to remember to ask all the time, to constantly ask, and to always be in prayer. My dear Lord, please keep me remembering that I'm not the doer, that you're the doer. You're the one that's making all this happen. We see great devotees who kind of lose their understanding of this simple principle because they think that they're the doers. Very great devotees. I've known a few in my lifetimes, and Krishna arranged for them. Some devotees, it would be amazing to see how Krishna arranged. Usually Krishna arranged for the character of a devotee to become very visible over a period of time, because we can't cheat Krishna. There's no way we can cheat Krishna. However, if we take whatever it is, whatever learnings we are receiving, and take it in a humble state and stay in the process. One time, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj wrote me a message. I don't remember what was going on, but he said, at a certain point in Krishna consciousness, it's all about perseverance. So if we just keep persevering amidst all the lessons that we are going to learn, some of them will be to help us to become humble, this, to learn this humility. Then Krishna, with his infinite mercy and wisdom, he will help us. He will help us. And that requires our faith. That requires us to kind of internally know that we are protected, which is why there's incarnations like Lord Ram to teach us these lessons, of how to get this kind of protection of keeping our consciousness pure. And yeah, it's a challenge because we do have our different. We're still like the fan, right? The fan is unplugged, but there's still residue of different karmic memories and karmic experiences that we may have had. And so, yeah, everything gets revealed. Everything gets revealed ultimately. Who we are will become revealed. And the thing is to stay in the process, no matter what. Just stay in the process. Don't ever leave the feet of the devotees and the Lord. Even if we leave the feet of the devotees externally, don't ever lose the feet of the devotees internally. At least that's something that I've learned over the years. Always keep a loving mood with the devotees, even if it's internal, it's in our hearts. And, we might not be able to express that externally often, but always have that loving mood with the devotees. Yeah, those are some practical things that I know have helped me over the years to that somehow, by the mercy of my spiritual master, I'm still wanting to learn how to love Krishna. I'm still knowing that Krishna loves me, and I'm still knowing that Krishna is giving me remembrance and forgetfulness. I'm still knowing that just by hearing about these great devotees and speaking about them, like Hanuman. Great devotees, devotees come in so many different ways. Just by glorifying the devotees, that special mercy in that. And to not just say it with lip service, but to really mean it, to really mean when I speak about, a devotee. And yeah, it's like little things, I think. Because when we think about bigness, what can we really do that's big, Hmm. I mean, yeah, I think bigness means glorification of the Lord. So if something is being done that glorifies the Lord, glorified the Lord's devotees, then certainly we'll know that that's arranged by the Lord. I think that keeps us grounded. I think that will help us to stay grounded. Just like Yashadev, I'll pick on Yashadev before I leave. He's doing incredible things, him and his wife, And I sometimes wonder, how did they have those guys? They're so empowered. They're so empowered. So with the instruction comes the empowerment, He's trying to follow the instruction he received. And that instruction is actually the actual empowerment. That's it, right? And him and his wife, they're, I pray that they're keeping an internal understanding always of who's really doing everything that they're being used as instruments for. Yeah, that's a prayer. I think they're in good consciousness. What do you say about that, Yashadev Prabhu?
I don't have anything to say about that, Mataji, but thank you so much.
Well, one thing I can say from my observation, just by hearing you and seeing you over the years, I see that you are a very internal devotee, and you are very sincerely wanting to serve your spiritual master without profit, adoration, and distinction. And I know, that's that's not often easy. However, I see you very sincere in that area. So that's mercy that you've received from your spiritual master. and from the devotees, because the devotees help us. You know, devotees, they call us out in some way or another. Yeah. Is your wife in India? Yes, you're there?
My wife, Anandini,
Uh,
no, she's here.
uh,
But
oh,
she
she's
is
here.
taking a group of students during the spring break at Penn State. I guess it's like second week of March.
Okay.
8
Okay.
students going. Some graduates are returning to go on this trip. It's going to be really nice.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. And you're staying back with the,
Yeah.
okay.
Daddy duty for 10 days. Pray for me.
Yeah. That will keep you humble. Get some baby.
Krishna.
Agari Krishna, when you get some babies, you won't worry about what's big and what's not big. Babies will keep you in line. Okay, Prabhus, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for engaging me. Appreciate it so much. Leela Kishori, Haribo, how are you, my love? Okay, you're not available to talk.
No, Hare Krishna. I was just trying to get the phone to open on the, sometimes I struggle with Zoom. Thank you so much for your class. It's so wonderful to be here. I have a great respect and love for Hanuman. It's one of the first demigods that I read about and learned about was Hanuman in my yoga teacher training. And one of the things that I love the most about him is how incredibly powerful he is, but how he knew to use that power to serve the Lord. Hanuman was so powerful that they had to make him forget because when he was young, he was dangerous, you know, and the
Yeah.
story of, and yet also, so many contradictions. Hanuman was brahmachari and yet he was married because he married Surya's daughter so that he could be taught sastra. And then he ran backwards every day in front of Surya so that he could be taught. How many of us would have that much devotion to Sastra? You know, I mean, think because Surya said, I don't have time to teach you. I have to, you know, bring the sun across. He's like, well, I'll just run backwards, you know, so I can learn. That's some pretty amazing stuff. And that what struck me the most is that the first time he ever laid eyes on Lord Ram, he fell in deep devotional love. And he knew from that moment on, I am going to serve you forever, you know. So beautiful, beautiful things, just such a beautiful inspiration to me. Like, you know, can I be that in love and that devoted to Krishna? Like, what a goal, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very, and even obedient. He got there, and Mother Sita said he could have rescued her. He was strong and he was there, and she said, no, not your mission. You know, Ram's coming for me, but thanks. You know, I feel like you know, I feel better now. I'm glad you came, but no. And can you imagine how hard that was for him? He was a soldier. He was powerful to say, okay, I got to leave you here, you know, and do what I'm sent to do, you know. So yeah, such an inspiration in that. So thank you for sharing those pastimes and the pastimes of Lord Ram, because it's all very, very inspirational. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Leela Kishori. Thank you for sharing. So nice to hear from you this morning. And it's always wonderful to hear how, you know, in your journey, even prior to becoming a devotee, as you said, as you shared, by studying yoga, you got connected, you got awareness about Hanuman. Isn't that beautiful? Everything is so interconnected, right? So for many years, we rejected people that studied yoga or you know, engaged in yoga. But however, we can, you know, if we have a teacher that knows that has some understanding of bhakti, a good yoga teacher will bring bhakti in the process. And that's, you know, Krishna has so many ways that he engages his devotees. So that's the lesson of Hanuman. No matter what we do it in the best way we can, and always remember the Lord. Like Ajamil said, Lord is in our heart, right? And Hanuman showed that. So that's the goal. That's what every day a meditation, right? Every day that we never get bored. It's like, okay, how am I using my skills or my talents or my gifts today? And remembering the Lord in my heart. That's, yeah, every day. Thank you so very much, Leela Kishore. Okay, my dear friends, I'm looking forward to this chapter because it's a very exciting chapter. So I'm going to try to come to the classes in the morning and hear from the wonderful devotees. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Mataji. Haribol.
Hari Hari. Hari Bol.